So Godzilla's Singular Point is actually pretty good. Now it's not amazing, and it's far from it actually, but it's not bad either. It's already better than the anime trilogy, which is a fucking huge improvement for a proper anime for Godzilla, and it's way more engaging, though that has been up for a debate recently. Now in terms of covering this series, I'm not going through every single episode in detail, since to me it doesn't really seem worth it. Every episode seems to have some kind of formula of their own. Each episode introduces a new problem that needs to be solved, a news update on the situation, the monsters finally appear for the episode, back and forth between our main characters on their journey, and then a cliffhanger at the end for the next episode to pick up from. I was rather excited to see this series based on the amount of characters there are and the monsters that were returning, although this is where my problems started to come in. With as many characters as there are, it was a little hard to keep track of what was going on at certain points. Now to be fair, unlike the godforsaken spawn of hell, I loved every single character in the show, since by their designs and actual diversity, I can remember every single one. Not their names, because I would always get confused between one character or the other, and I'm bad with names, so there's that. And that's about it. Their designs are great, but as characters, it's only a handful that I'll be remembering. They're colorful, they're entertaining, and they all have their own personalities. The only downside that I can honestly see as a very minor issue, if not insignificant, is that not everyone has their own individual goals or motivations, as every character in this show seems to share the same one, relatively speaking anyway, as it splits between stopping the catastrophe and constant emphasis on the singular point. And that's also another one of my issues, which we'll get more into with the monsters, but this is Shin Godzilla 2.0, literally, but instead of taking a focus on the military and politics, it's more of a collaborative, theoretical, and much more of a worldwide scale event, considering everything that happens means the end of the world. That's my issue with the characters, not because they don't have their own personal motivations, nor because the series doesn't give one specific character any emotional depth. It's just a matter of fact that it's pretty much the same as Shin Godzilla with these characters, which is honestly what the series is lacking: emotional depth. Not even the cutesy shit could change my mind, especially with Jet Jaguar. I didn't really feel anything with his demise. And as for the final fight between Godzilla and Jet Jaguar, it was pretty entertaining and cool to see, and that's just it. That's literally all I can say about it. I can't say much without being redundant, so there you go. Considering that this show pulls off the answer was right in front of us the whole time cliche, I felt nothing. Wow, who knew it would be a giant robot established at the start that could defeat Godzilla? Oh my god, Toho, you're such geniuses! It isn't exactly enough for me to get mad over, nor really care about deeply. However, it was great to see Jet Jaguar brought back in a prominent role, or at least used more than once. Plus, the design grew on me over time, and it was fun to watch. With every episode's pacing, I could barely comprehend what was going on, or what happened because of how fast every episode moved. You get news updates at the start of every episode to showcase the worldwide effects of Godzilla and the Singular Point, which adds a little more to the stakes that are trying to be established, but even then, there's so little emphasis on their urgency. There's not really a moment where the characters are saying, we need to hurry or else it means the end of the world, besides May's travels to find the answers in quite literally the last two episodes where it does matter. Godzilla literally shows up out of nowhere and there isn't mass hysteria panic, because when he pretty much attacks Tokyo, it's a ghost town, or at least there isn't that much of a public panic. The Rodans did a better job in this, jeez. Speaking of which, I might as well cover the obvious. Godzilla is constantly referenced and being built up to this final form throughout the whole series, yet despite having the least amount of focus, he shows up in the last few episodes while every other monster pops out of nowhere. To be fair though, it's not like the MonsterVerse where he's shoved out of the spotlight completely. Yes, it's taking a while, and yes, he gets very little attention, but he is still constantly present everywhere. However, the way his presence is treated is rather insulting, I should say. The entire point is Godzilla, and, well, yeah, we don't get enough of him. They cut away from him more than 2014 did. Not to mention the obvious that I said earlier. Godzilla's Singular Point is just Shin Godzilla 2.0. Collaborative characters with no personal motivations, goals, or a character-driven story. A mad scientist that discovered Godzilla's existence, everyone trying to figure out the answer to stop Godzilla, and then Godzilla having multiple forms. The only difference is that one is colorful, cutesy, and pretentious, while the other is actually smart, gritty, and horrifying. Godzilla having multiple forms has already been done before, and not only that, but his other forms are other Toho monsters. Give me a fucking break. They did Varen dirty. It's not even creative nor clever. It just seems to be more of a lazy way for the creators to shoehorn in more classic monsters in some way, and at least try to do something that's familiar, i.e. Shin Godzilla. It's insulting and a bit unoriginal. Not to mention, this Godzilla is underwhelming as fuck in terms of his sheer power. I don't feel any urgency or stakes from the amount of clouds or smoke, Toho. This isn't Hulk 2003. Now for the bones the original Godzilla introduced at the beginning and constantly foreshadowing events to come, it's a cool concept, but what they do with them in the end just sets up another season. That's literally their only purpose. I don't even see the need for Mechagodzilla at all. I'm just gonna go on a limb here and say they're gonna try to do the Kiryu series again, but by his design, I don't think so. That's all I have to say on Godzilla, honestly. Design-wise, I don't have any strong feelings towards it. It's Godzilla. It looks like Godzilla. What the fuck am I supposed to say? As for the other monsters, it tends to get confusing. Rodan at least made sense for his purpose, and don't even get me started on his design for fuck. It grew on me. Didn't really mind it, but he's been dwindled down to a pterodactyl, so yeah, they've really been doing Rodan dirty as of late, huh? The inclusion of Anguirus and Kumonga seems more for show and fan appeal rather than adding towards the urgency of Godzilla appearing, since all the monsters seem to originate from this singular point. They just seem to slow down or deviate the characters from their main goal and are just more of a distraction. And Gearus at least starts off the theory of time travel or whatever in the end plays into the catastrophe that is inevitably coming. As for the Kumongas, I still don't see why they were included the way they were. They added very little other than more action. Don't get me wrong though, I loved seeing Anguirus again. Manda was interesting to see, and I honestly forgot he was included in this until going back through the series. I already touched a bit on Godzilla's forms, so yeah. Gabber was a fucking surprise, and is one of the only monsters in this I could call terrifying. Oh, it's actually called Salunga! Please shut the fuck up, I'm already going through enough. In all seriousness though, I found him to be more threatening than Godzilla was in this. Hell, this shit-eating monkey had more screen time than Godzilla. They really do love that green abomination, they just don't want to admit it. And yeah, that's about it of what I have on the monsters and characters, but animation-wise, it's absolutely beautiful, and actual hand-drawn animation is always appreciated, and I applaud Bones Studio for doing so. Reason I can tell is from the line work, it's very subtle. Either that, or they just used a very specific brush for the outlines, and I'm just a dumbass. This is better than the trilogy, and it doesn't seem to reuse or have any stiff animations either. It's beautiful, and the artist put in so much love towards this. Music I absolutely love, and often at times it was chilling, especially with that lullaby. It's honestly refreshing to have good music in Godzilla media. I say that as if Godzilla vs. Kong was all we had. Now there's one significant point. Unlike King of the Monsters, for example, this is how you make a love letter to Godzilla in relation to its references. They either act as Easter eggs or truly heartfelt nods to the original material, especially with the Oxygen Destroyer. In Singular Point, it's called the Orthogonal Diagonalizer. It shares the same design as the Oxygen Destroyer for a reference, but it has an actual purpose to exist in this series. It's not a cheap cop-out that weakens the monster out of nowhere with no explanation and it's completely forgotten about. Nope, it had an actual purpose and there's multiple of them. So yeah, the references in this series were basically heartfelt nods to the original series and more often than not played an actual role. Take notes, Dotery. And that's basically all I have to say on Singular Point. When I watched it at first, I enjoyed it and felt really engaged, but the pacing and execution of certain aspects leaves much to be desired. And when you copy off of almost exactly the same points from Shin Godzilla, it just makes it feel a little bland. It's better than the trilogy by a mile, but it's not the best either. It did its job in what it was trying to do, and for a first viewing experience, it was pretty good. As for Season 2, I'm only gonna watch out of obligation, cause man, I really don't see a point in Season 2. They hyped this shit way too damn much. I'll give it an A-. It wasn't bad. Okay, so post-editing here. So after rewatching the series a couple more times, I realized that I would have to change my grade. So instead of giving it an A-, I'm going to give it a C+. I couldn't really bring myself to find any more interest in this series, so that's why. Especially considering the amount of issues that I found and already discussed. I'll catch you crazy fuckers later. We're on a journey to the end.